Okay, so picture this. You are trapped in a town that will not let you leave. The roads loop back, the trees are wrong, and every single night monsters come out of the dark to murder anyone who steps outside without a talisman. That is already a nightmare. But now imagine you find out that you have been here before, not as a visitor, as a whole different person. And that previous version of you, yeah, they lost their mind and killed everyone. That is the situation Jade Herrera is sitting in right now on From, and I genuinely cannot stop thinking about it. Welcome back. If you are new here, this channel digs into the kind of storytelling that actually makes your brain work. And From on MGM Plus is one of those shows that rewards paying close attention. Today we're talking about something that the actor David Alpe, who plays Jade, just teased in an interview. And when you connect it with everything we already know from the first 3 seasons, a pretty dark picture starts to form. Let us get into it. So for anyone catching up, Jade Herrera is a wealthy software developer. He arrives in the town on the same day as the Matthews family in season 1, and from the jump he is not exactly Mr. Warmth. The guy is smart, abrasive, convinced he is the most logical person in any given room, and honestly a little exhausting at first. But as the seasons go on, he becomes one of the most genuinely compelling characters in the show. Here is why. Jade becomes obsessed with a symbol, not in a quirky hobby kind of way. In a haunted, cannot stop visions following him kind of way, that symbol shows up everywhere. In the trees, in his dreams, on walls. And the more he chases it, the deeper he falls into the mystery of the town itself. By the end of season 3, Jade and Tabitha Matthews have a stunning revelation dropped on them. They are not just stuck in the town because of bad luck on a road trip. They have been here before, many times, in past lives. Jade's past life is a man named Christopher and Tabitha's is a woman named Miranda. And they were here together decades ago when Victor was just a child. That is the setup, and it completely reframes everything about Jade's journey. Now let us talk about Christopher, because this is where the story gets genuinely unsettling. Victor, the man who has been trapped in the town since he was a kid and has watched decades of horror unfold, has described Christopher in very specific terms. And those words have stuck in my head ever since season 2. Christopher arrived in the town and he was warm. He was funny. He was the kind of person who made everyone around him feel a little lighter even in the worst circumstances. He had a ventriloquist act with a doll named Jasper, and he used it to make the children laugh. In a town that is essentially a waking nightmare, this man was a source of light. Then he started seeing the symbol. The same one Jade sees. The same one that has been pulling Jade forward through every season of this show. And slowly, Christopher changed. He pulled away from people. He spent more and more time alone. He got into arguments with Jasper, the ventriloquist doll, which by the way was apparently moving and talking on its own at some point, which is a completely separate, terrifying detail. And then one night the bad things happened. Christopher murdered the entire town. Victor watched it as a child. He survived because his mother hid him, and he has been living with that trauma ever since. Now, in season 3, it is confirmed that a supernatural entity called the Boy in White had spoken to Christopher. He told Christopher that the answers to escaping the town were tied to the children who were murdered there long ago, and that he needed to go through a faraway tree to save them. Instead of following through, Christopher snapped. Whether the town manipulated him, whether the man in yellow was involved, whether Jasper the creepy ventriloquist doll was whispering dark things into his ear, we do not have the full picture yet. But the end result is the same. The funny, warm, beloved man became someone nobody was laughing with anymore. He became the worst thing the town had seen. So here is where the recent interview with David Alpe comes in, and why I find it so interesting. In a conversation with Screen Rant promoting season 4, Alpe was asked about Jade's dynamic with Boyd Stevens, the town's de facto sheriff played by Harold Perrineau. And Alpe is genuinely enthusiastic about it. He talks about how much he enjoys watching those scenes himself, how dramatically opposed Jade and Boyd are as characters. Jade is all energy and urgency and borderline mania. Boyd is steady, stoic, methodical, 2 completely different leadership styles bumping up against each other. And Alpe says it creates genuine humor, a kind of lightness that the show needs given how dark everything around it is. But then he catches himself, and this is the part that I want to sit with for a moment. Alpe says, and I am paraphrasing because we respect copyright on this channel, that he always comes back to what Victor said about Christopher. That at the beginning, Christopher arrived and everybody laughed at his jokes, and then nobody was laughing later. That is not a casual observation. That is a warning being spoken directly about Jade by the actor playing him. Right now, in the early episodes of season 4, Jade is the person making things lighter. He is working with Boyd, he is showing empathy toward other residents like Fatima, he is trying to make hallucinogenic mushrooms work as a research tool for escaping the town. He is still oriented toward helping people, he still wants to get everyone out. But the pattern is already there. The simple obsession that preceded Christopher's breakdown is something Jade has lived with since season 1. The desperate need for answers, which feels righteous and noble right now, was also what Christopher had before he fell apart. And even the mushroom trip, which sounds wild but is genuinely his attempt to break through to some truth the town is hiding, echoes the way Christopher chased the symbol further and further down until there was no coming back. Here is the part of this story that genuinely messes with me on a structural level. Jade and Tabitha did not just find out they were reincarnations of Christopher and Miranda. They also found out that this has happened multiple times. They come back, they try to save the children, they fail, they die, and then they come back again in new bodies with no memory of what happened before. Every single time they have failed. That is not just a sad detail, that is a statement about the nature of the town itself. It is designed to loop. Whatever force is running this place, whether that is the man in yellow or something older, it has built in a mechanism that resets. And the people who are closest to breaking the cycle are the ones who keep getting recycled as part of it. Think about that for a second. The town does not just trap people. It specifically keeps bringing back the two people who have the best chance of understanding it and defeating it, and it makes sure they lose every time. So when Jade says he wants to find answers, when he says he wants to get everyone home, he is doing the same thing Christopher did. The same thing Miranda did. And before them, presumably the same thing whoever came before Christopher and Miranda did. The fact that this time Jade is working alongside Boyd might be the one variable that changes things. Boyd is not a reincarnation. He is not part of the predetermined cycle in the same way. He is just a man who has refused to stop fighting for his people. And Alpe himself seems to find that combination meaningful. But meaningful and sufficient are two different things. Let us talk about the man in yellow for a moment, because he is the piece that Season 4 is putting front and center as the active threat. He showed up in the Season 3 finale and decapitated Jim Matthews, Tabitha's husband, in cold blood. And before he did it, he made a point of telling both Tabitha and Jade that knowledge comes at a cost. That line is doing a lot of work. It is not just a villain's quip. It is a framing device for what Season 4 is actually about. The closer these characters get to the truth, the more dangerous that truth becomes, and the man in yellow is not just an obstacle. According to the show's own lore, his goal seems to be turning the residents against each other. If Christopher's breakdown was partly manufactured, if the town or some entity within it was nudging him toward violence by feeding his obsession and isolating him, then the man in yellow doing the same thing to Jade in Season 4 would be a continuation of that same strategy. Not a new plan. The same plan, because it worked before. There is also a newer wrinkle from the Season 4 cast list that is worth noting. A character named Sophia is introduced as a pastor's daughter, someone described as sheltered and vulnerable who turns out to be a disguise used by the man in yellow to infiltrate the community. So the threat is not just external anymore. It is inside the walls, inside the relationships the characters have built. If you wanted to engineer a breakdown in someone like Jade, you would get close to him, make him trust you, and then pull the rug out at exactly the right moment. Now here is what I think is the most interesting potential counter to all of this. Julie Matthews, Tabitha's daughter, is a story walker. She can move through time. She already used this ability in Season 3 to throw a rope to Boyd in a moment that we had seen in Season 2 without knowing how it happened. Time travel is real in this universe, and Julie is the person who can access it. The limitation is significant. Julie can witness events in the past, she can even interact with them on some level, but she cannot change what has already happened. A future version of her appeared to warn Jim Matthews before he was killed and he still died. The event was fixed. But here is the thing, knowing what happened and understanding why it happened are different. If Julie can storywalker her way back to the period when Christopher was alive and watch what specifically broke him, that is information. Not a chance to stop him, but a chance to understand the mechanism. And if Jade knows the mechanism, maybe he can resist it in a way Christopher could not. David Alpe himself suggested this possibility in his Season 4 interview, noting that Julie could use her ability to find Christopher and Miranda and learn from them directly. That is not just fan speculation. That is the actor of the character in question pointing at a potential lifeline. Whether the show takes that direction or whether Jade starts his downward spiral before Julie can get him that information is what makes Season 4 genuinely suspenseful right now. I want to step back for a moment and just appreciate what this show is doing narratively. A lot of mystery shows build toward answers. From is doing something more interesting, it is building toward a question that gets more specific with every answer it gives. We do not just want to know how to escape the town anymore. We want to know whether the cycle itself is breakable. And we want to know whether the people who are closest to breaking it are themselves part of the mechanism that ensures it continues. That is a genuinely sophisticated horror concept. It takes the classic haunted place premise and adds a dimension that most horror stories do not bother with. The characters are not just in danger from the town, they are potentially in danger from who they are fated to become. This show has a 96% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. It is the most watched series in MGM Plus history, and Stephen King has given it public praise. None of that happened because it is a simple Monster of the Week horror series. It happened because the mythology is layered in a way that makes you want to rewatch every episode looking for things you missed. So where does this leave us as we head into the back half of Season 4? Jade is currently on a mushroom-induced hallucinogenic trip that the show is treating as a serious research mission. The town is hiding something under the lake that nobody has identified yet. The man in yellow is disguised as someone who has already worked his way into the community's trust. Boyd and Jade are working together in a partnership that provides levity right now, but is sitting under the shadow of a warning from decades ago. And somewhere in the timeline, Julie is a story walker who might be the only person who can give Jade the specific knowledge he needs before he runs out of road. Season 5 has already been confirmed as the final season. This is the end game. And the showrunners, who include executives from Lost and a filmmaker from the MCU, know how to make an ending hit. The question I keep coming back to is this: if every version of Jade and Tabitha has failed before, what makes this version different? Boyd's presence is the most obvious answer, but the show has been very careful not to let us feel too comfortable about that. Victor said it plainly: at the beginning, Christopher came and everybody laughed, and then nobody was laughing later. Right now, Jade is the funny one. He is the one bringing lightness into a dark situation. And if the show is setting up what I think it is setting up, that might be exactly the thing we should be most worried about. I want to know what you think. Is Jade going to break the cycle, or is the town going to take him the same place it took Christopher? Leave your theory down in the comments. This is the kind of show where getting into the weeds with other people who are watching closely is half the fun.